Hi guys, you may have saw my latest video where I bought this Pagani GMT, the Pepsi. It's a great watch, I'm really happy with it. The only thing is, when I ordered this I thought it was a ceramic bezel, but the bezel on this is aluminium, which is fine, it looks great, but I really did want an aluminium bezel. So I had a look on AliExpress because you can buy the bezels on there. Also you can buy them on eBay. But the red and blue ceramic bezel is quite expensive. I mean, you can pay £120 for one. And there's another one that's about £25. But the red isn't perfect. So the problem with the ceramic bezel with the red colour is red's very hard and expensive to make. So on the Rolex, I get, obviously that's costed into the price. But with the Pagani, considering you're only paying £60-ish for the watch, you're not going to get a red Pepsi ceramic bezel for that price. Steel Dive do one, I think, but then you're talking about £150 and you get your ceramic bezel. But the problem is, I don't think the red on the ceramic on these cheaper ones is a particularly good match. It just isn't bright enough. So you're probably, if you're going to go for a Pepsi, you may be better off to stick with the aluminium bezel, and that will age as well, which will give it a bit of patina. So I thought, I wonder if I could pot a different bezel on there, not a Pepsi one. And I had a look, and for £5 you can buy a Batman bezel, so black and blue. They did a couple of other colours, but that colour was my second choice anyway. So I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm going to go for it. I looked on YouTube and found out there is quite a good hack or tip in changing the bezels without actually having to remove the rotating bezel itself. Well, the bezel's just arrived, so I'm going to give it a go. So first I need to offer up the bezel to make sure the one that I've ordered is correct, because I measured with a tape measure, but these things have to be millimetre perfect. I'm not 100% sure it's going to be the correct one. Fingers crossed that it is. So let's place the watch down for a second. And this is how it comes. This only took about a week to come, really quick actually. And it's on the label, it's saying it's a tilt, which means the bezel isn't flat, it's got a slight tilt to it. 38mm, 30.6mm ceramic luminous bezel GMT. It says aluminium as well, they do an aluminium one, but this one is ceramic. So here is the bezel itself in this bag, and also they've given me two self-adhesive kind of stickers, which is what will be used to stick the bezel onto the watch if I can successfully get the old one off. So it's good that they've given me two, that's a nice touch, and they've packaged it very well in this little plastic box to keep it from breaking in transit. Nice little strong plastic box. All in all, for kind of £5, I think that's a pretty good deal. But we haven't fitted it yet, so let's not count our chickens. Even got a little bit of bubble wrap around that as well. And that's the first look at the actual bezel itself. I'm just looking at the back. Yeah, so I'm guessing we have to peel off one of these self-adhesive circles, which will probably stick on there and then stick onto the rotating bezel itself. So before I take this out of the bag, let's offer it up to the watch and see if we've got a good match. Straight away I like the colour. So if this is successful, then I think I'm going to be happy. It looks good. I think I'm going to take it out the bag and just really get it up nice and close to make sure that this is going to fit. I mean, I guess if I do remove that, worst case scenario, I've got a spare sticky piece that I could use to put it back on again. In fact, that's nice. If I only use one and I've got the spare one, I could then put this bezel back in the box, and if I ever want to change back, it should be a fairly simple procedure of doing it again. Okay, so I've gone a bit quiet here because I'm just using the old eyeballs. And to see if that looks like an exact match, that it's not overlapping, and that it's going to drop in to the space. Well, I wouldn't say I'm 100%. It looks good. It looks like it's not overlapping. It looks exactly the same size. But it only needs to be 0.5 mil or something out, and it's not going to fit in. It's got to be exact. But I think by eye that looks exactly correct. I mean, obviously I'm moving this backwards and forwards slightly, so you may see slight edge of the one underneath come through, where I'm kind of moving around a little bit. Okay, I think I'm happy that that is the correct size. So the procedure in removing this bezel is very straightforward in principle. So I've seen videos, it looks pretty straightforward. We're going to attempt this. So let's put this safely into its little box for a minute and well out the way. So the procedure to loosen the glue, basically, which is holding this bezel on, because this bezel is going to be held on with a similar kind of double-sided ring, acetone. So what we're going to do, nail polish is basically acetone. We're going to pour some of this nail polish into this dish, and then we're going to put the watch into the nail polish, and we're going to leave it there until the bezel itself almost falls off. That's what we're hoping. It may need like a little persuasion with a little pin just to pull away at the edge. Now, you're meant to leave it about 12 hours, but I have seen on one other video that they did this with a Pagani, and I think he waited about 1.5 hours, and the glue had melted and he was good to go. So let's get on with it, and then I'll be able to cut back when I come back to see if I can get the bezel off. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking because it's a brand new watch. I've only worn it a couple of times now. But having that spare self-adhesive ring gives me a bit of confidence that even if this doesn't all fit, I could probably put it back if need be. So I'm putting about 1 centimetre, maybe a bit less than that. But I don't want to drown the watch, but I do want to submerge the bezel itself. So first of all, obviously going to make sure the crown's nice and tight. And then I'm just going to lower it into the acetone solution. I've probably got a bit too much in there. I wonder if I should take a little bit out. But I don't think it's going to do any harm. The crown's tight, isn't it? I need it to be able to get into everywhere to loosen up that. Okay, I think we'll just leave it like that. So let's leave that for an hour or so. I'll come back to it and see if we can get that. Hopefully that bezel will have loosened up and we can pop it off and go to the next stage. Okay, so it's only been about half an hour or so. I just want to check it because I could see there's a little bit of debris under the watch. So I think what is happening is the acetone is removing the loom from the bezel insert. So you can see, look. Okay, so if you have a look into the dish, can you spot something? Look at that. I don't think that's meant to be there. So we've got the loom is disintegrating off of the insert bezel. Now the loom on this Pagani is like a bright yellow. It's actually brighter than the blue loom that's on the indices and hands. For some reason they did a yellow loom on the numbers on the bezel itself. Now it's not completely destroyed, but we've definitely lost some of the loom. So if you are going to do that, do this, you need to bear that in mind, that you may destroy or at least alter the look of the bezel that you're taking off if you do need to put it back on. So let's hope that this works. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do to see if this may come off now is see if we can turn the bezel whilst holding the bezel. So let's hold the edge of the bezel so we don't turn it, and I'll use my thumb and see if the insert moves, which it is. See, I'm going backwards and forwards, but I'm not actually moving the bezel. So that means the glue itself is working its way free. Now, the next thing is, how am I going to pop this off? Let's have a look. Some of the glues, I think, actually, where I've gone backwards and forwards, it's actually come away. Unless that could be loom, that could still be loose loom actually. Okay, so what I have with me, let me just pause this a second. Another look at the loom that's printed itself onto the bottom of my dish. I did pour a little bit of the acetone back. I didn't want it quite so deep. I didn't film that. I quite like that. That's going to glow in the dark tonight. Okay, let's put that to one side. Now, I've got myself a little needle, quite a fine one. I've got a pack of needles. I've just picked out one of the finer ones. And I'm hoping that I might be able to get in to the tiny gap there is and maybe pop this off if possible. So let's have a look. It might not be ready yet. It may need longer. But it's twisting round, so you would think that should pop off. Let's get it a bit looser. Now everything's very snug, so it's quite hard to find something that you're going to be able to get in there enough to get underneath it. Oh, hang on, that lifted then. Okay, so I've got the needle right in to the tiny bit of gap. We're close, we're close. Problem is this needle is pretty slidey, so I can't get a lot of purchase. Oh, it's coming. Right, I'll get my finger now underneath it once I've lifted it. Okay, now I've got a gap, so perhaps if I run the needle around. I can feel that it's coming away. Gently rotate that around. Put my needle back. This reminds me of taking off like a dead nail. Have you ever dropped something heavy on your toenail and the nail comes away eventually? It's that kind of sensation. So that's the bezel insert. And as you can see, there's still some glue inside there. So we need to get all that off. And the bezel's in still quite good condition. I'll give that a little wipe. Get the acetone off of this. We don't want to do any further damage to this one in case it needs to come off. So I've just got a piece of tissue paper, regular bog paper, nothing flash here. Yeah, that number 8, it's kind of spread the loom around a little bit, but it's, if anything, strangely it looks a little bit better because the loom was so heavy. It was a little bit too much on the numbers, but by doing this, it's recessed the loom slightly, giving it a slightly neater look to the numbers actually. See, quite sticky on the back of there, so the tissue paper's sticking. So that will need a proper clean up on the back to get, I mean, I can almost just pull it off, get this glue off. Okay, so that's still in one piece. I think that could be usable. I might just drop it in the acetone once more. Give it a wipe round to get that glue from the back off. I'm just going to try to pull it off with my finger. Kind of roll it off. Okay, well, I'll pay a bit more attention to that later. That's got the majority of it off. And we're still in quite good shape with that. It hasn't removed too much of the loom, just some of the depth of it perhaps. Okay, so let's just put that to one side. So the next job is to get this glue that's remaining, which is quite a bit. So to do that, I have got an earbud or Q-tip, which if I dip into the acetone, I'm hoping I can work this out a bit better. Yeah, we want to get this all out. So I'll soften it up using the acetone. Then I think I'm going to use a watch screwdriver and see if I can pull that out once it's softened up a bit. So let me just grab a watch screwdriver. Let's see if we can dig this out. It's quite a bit of glue. It'd be nice if we could pull it out in one kind of line. Oh, it's ever so sticky. Yeah, this is going to be one of those kind of messy jobs. I think it's just pull a bit, get a bit, pull it out, keep repeating until we get it all off. Okay, I'll just pause. Let me get all this off. Okay, so I got most of it out now. It's a little bit tricky. I'm kind of going around with a screwdriver, picking it out, and then I'm dipping the Q-tip thing back in a bit of acetone, and then kind of quite forcefully running that around the groove and trying to get it out as much as possible, because I don't want to leave any glue in there that could cause problems with the rotation of the actual bezel itself, the mechanism. So I think it pays to take a little bit of time making sure you remove all this leftover glue. And then once we've done that, we want to make sure that we've got the acetone out of there as well, otherwise the new tape's not going to stick. Let's see how we're getting on. There's a few little bits left, but that's almost there. Okay, so I think I've removed the vast majority of this kind of snotty glue that's been left behind. I'm going to go around with a cloth now, dig it in there, help remove the last bit, and to clean the acetone that's still remaining. If I can get this in there. That's been the most tricky part of this so far, is getting all that glue from the bezel insert area, because it kind of snots up and it just moves around but doesn't it wants to do everything but actually come out. But perseverance with acetone, the cotton bud, using the screwdriver, you kind of get there in the end. So obviously I don't want anything left in there which is going to make it not sit perfectly. Okay, I would say I've got about 98.8% of it out. There's a few tiny smears. It was a bit tougher to get that stuff out than I thought. So as I say, lots of screwdriver and cotton bud with a bit of acetone. So I've cleaned that up now. So now the moment of truth. Let's see if we can attach the new bezel insert. So there's the bezel. Let's just, before we put the adhesive on, just make sure the thing fits. So let's just have a look. Phew, the thing fits. That is a relief. Okay, let's use the insert glue tape thing. I've got to get this off now, hang on. Just had to use a pin to lift that off because it sat in there too nicely. So that's a relief, we know that fits. So we have this 3M, we've got two of them. Now I'm guessing we put it on the insert itself. So the ring peels away from the backing paper. This is what we've got to be really careful on. That is sticky. It's coming away from my fingers now, so that's... Let me think. Okay, so we pull this back as one, probably. Oh, I see. It's got a backing paper in the middle to help you place it. That is very, very super sticky. Well, I think we're okay. Okay, so we have still got the piece of paper in the middle. then do we place it on there or do we place it on the insert itself? I can't remember what they did in the video. So I think I'm going to place it onto the insert carefully. And then I can peel that away and it should So I've peeled the outer layer off. I'm going to peel the middle section off. Peel that out. So we're left with the adhesive still on the bezel insert. And then not drop it on the mat like I just did. Make sure the triangle is absolutely at the 12 o'clock. I'm slightly overlapping on the right hand side with the adhesive, so I'm going to tuck that in, get that lined up so we know it's going to click on the 12 o'clock. And then press that into place. And then I'm going to use maybe a tiny bit of acetone to wipe around if there's any glue which went onto the edge, because I was fractionally off center, but there's more than enough that's around it to stick that on. That's the backing of it. So what I'm going to do is just dip my cloth in a tiny bit of acetone just to clean up that edge. I think that's done it. That's looking good. And there you have it. I've given it a good press on, polished it up a little bit, make sure I got obviously any acetone off it that might have gone onto the bezel itself. That's not going anywhere. Let's just zoom in. There we go. For £5, that bezel does look superb. I think the ceramic, there we go, because I've lined it up nicely with a click, it's lined up with the 12 o'clock on that triangle. I'm really pleased with that. I prefer that, I think, to the aluminium. But I've still got that if I want to put it back on, and I've still got my spare adhesive. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit more, pop that back in the box. That can stay with the watch. So if someone wanted to put that back on, or if I want to put it back on in the future, I can. So there you go. It's pretty straightforward. It's not that tricky. Getting the glue off and putting this adhesive ring on seems to be the most tricky part. But I think you will admit, or you will see, that does look good. That's transformed the watch. Now I could have bought this watch originally with that bezel, but I made a mistake of buying the Pepsi thinking it was going to come in ceramic, and it doesn't. So for a £5, I've changed it. I think that looks very smart. Let's put it on the wrist, see what it looks like. there we go, guys. We've gone from a Pepsi GMT Pagani to a Batman. Yeah, that ceramic does look more classy, better quality. I'm pleased with that. So the next one I'm going to do, I've ordered a black ceramic bezel insert for my Invicta Pro diver, because that's got an aluminium insert and that's got a few scratches on it because I've had that a year or a couple of years now. So once that arrives, I will do that one as well. So be very careful if you do this, guys. Don't blame me if you get it wrong, but I think I've done that successfully. Make sure you measure very well before you order your bezel inserts, but you'll find them on AliExpress or eBay, and they're not expensive. I think they're a really good value for what you're getting, and it can transform the look of your watch. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching. Take care.